Hi, I'm Warren Sprouse here on the Bible Forum. It's Sunday night, January 14th, 2018, and we have issues that are going on. We're here at the Bible Forum for you all week long. We're looking at life through a biblical lens, looking at what happened around the world this week. On July 14th, 2015, the P5+1 group, which also included the European Union and Iran, reached a joint comprehensive plan of action, a JCPOA, they called it, to ensure that Iran's nuclear program would be exclusively peaceful. The P5+1 are nations: China, France, Germany, Russia, the United Kingdom, and the United States. Added to that is the European Union and Iran. On January 16th of 2016, that date marks the actual implementation of the JCPOA. The International Atomic Energy Agency verified that Iran has implemented its key nuclear-related measures described in the JCPOA, and the Secretary of State has confirmed the IAEA's verification. As a result of Iran verifiably meeting its nuclear commitments, the United States and the EU have lifted nuclear relation sanctions on Iran, as described in that document, JCPOA. Well, fast forward to 2018. Now that Iran is clearly not living up to the terms of the deal, and there's turmoil in the streets of average and large cities in Iran, President Trump wants to decertify Iran. He wants to back out of this agreement. And as you might imagine, the Western world is in an uproar. As far as they are concerned, this is a sure track to nuclear proliferation and ultimately to war. Iran's president's deputy chief of staff for political affairs weighed into this debate, warning the United States that Iran has a contingency plan in the event this deal is not certified. He doesn't say what that is, but he says that it's a plan that will surprise Washington. According to him, the United States will definitely regret exiting the JCPOA and will incur much more losses than Iran, saying that Washington would wonder what a detailed plan Iran has made. He reportedly told Iran's state-run news agency that according to Iran's leadership, Tehran is ready to, quote, adopt the necessary political and economic measures in case the U.S. scraps the nuclear deal. He said if the United States quits, the Europeans can compensate for our losses and we will enter a new space. Can you think Persia, biblical Persia? That's Iran. And the 10-nation confederation that is outlined for us in the book of the Revelation, can you see these two together? The 10-nation confederation being the EU. Think of the speculative implications. In biblical prophecy, what appears to be Russia and Turkey together invade Israel. They're invading clearly from the north, coming down from Turkey. Egypt sees this happening. She joins in, not as a partner, but pushing up from the south as a spoiler to take advantage of the chaos and maybe win some advantage. The Bible says when this happens, a 2 million man army from the east will come across the Euphrates River. That river will dry up and they will march across there. To do what? To help? Doubtful. Probably to get in the game in order to be eligible for a share of the spoils. Could it be they will be working with the 10-Nation Confederation? The confederation run by the Antichrist? We don't know, but it sure is interesting. Pieces of the puzzle starting to move around. One day we'll see a bigger picture. This week, Democratic California Senator Dianne Feinstein released the transcripts, or at least it was reported that she got caught releasing the transcript of GPS founder Glenn Simpson's testimony. I should say GPS Fusion founder Glenn Simpson's testimony before the Senate Judiciary Committee just last week. She failed to mention this to the committee chairman, Chuck Grassley, before she did it. And Chuck's not happy. Ohio Representative Stephen LaTourette told his colleagues, quote, "We should not take a package put together by a bunch of sleep-deprived octogenarians on New Year's Eve." He's talking about the age of California Senator Dianne Feinstein, along with some others. She is 84 years old. And speaking as a senior citizen myself, a decade younger, that's not what caused this. 70-year-old, 90-year-old people clearly do not have the mental acumen of a 40-year-old. They don't have the mental acumen they once had, even if they're functioning at a high level, a level higher than younger peers. The reason? Older people have seen more. They've heard more. They've experienced more. There's more to process than a 30-year-old has. And it takes a little longer because the brain is starting to function in a different way. It's not categorizing things the way it used to. They're pretty much just all in there. You got to go find them. And what we have, the wealth of knowledge perhaps, takes a little longer to get out. If you want something technical, or you want a memory from 1965, and you're asking a 70-year-old, you're probably going to have to wait. You might have to wait a couple of days. Sometimes these things just pop out in the middle of the night. And there are a lot of aha moments for us older folks, often after we've made a decision. The 111th Congress, which took office in 2009, was the oldest in U.S. history. The average age of that Congress was 57 years in the House and 63 years in the Senate. The sitting 112th Congress is only slightly younger. Now keep in mind the median age in America is currently at the highest point in history. It now resides at about 37.9 years. That's up from the 1990s when it was 32.9. Between 2000 and 2010, the 65 and older population grew 15% faster than the younger age groups, accounting for this 13% increase. People are living longer. Average age today is 70, 75. It used to be in the mid-60s, late 60s. It was not unusual for people to die of old age in their 50s. Baby boomers are in their mid-40s, mid-50s, and they make up the largest group in America. Theirs is a 49% increase in this age group. Congress has toyed with the idea of an age limit from time to time, but they've never actually passed a law to limit it. Reason being, they're older. I just told you, they're almost 60 years old on average. They see themselves sticking around a while. They don't want to limit this thing. Oh, did I tell you? Sheriff Arpaio out in Arizona is running for Senate. He's 85. What are some of the things that our president has done so far? Things that perhaps the left hates him for? Well, he has nominated over 70 conservative court justices and has seen the confirmation of conservative Neil Gorsuch to the Supreme Court. Since February 1st of last year, Trump has been nominating a steady stream of justices for key federal court positions. Though Congress has only approved a handful, many of their approvals are conservatives, the most notable being Supreme Court Justice Neil Gorsuch. He has also abrogated over 60 federal regulations. Since Trump's 2-to-1 deregulation executive order, over 60 regulations have been repealed. As a result of this and other Trump administration policies, manufacturing jobs have grown substantially. And people are getting paid more, bonuses, vacation time, other perks. The Trump administration has also got NATO paying their fair share of the load. He threatened to remove American protections from NATO countries if those countries were not paying their pledged dues. They said they would do it. They haven't done it. There was a kerfluffle, as you might imagine, but the end result is those countries have now pledged to pay all of their dues. Number 4, he has brought in over $550 billion in trade deals and infrastructure spending from foreign countries. When he visited the Middle East, many of the media hailed it as a blistering failure. But in contrast, Trump managed to secure over $300 billion in trade deals just while he was in Saudi Arabia. In addition, Saudi Arabia pledged to invest an additional $40 billion with a B dollars into the U.S. infrastructure. Further, when Trump visited China as part of his Asia diplomacy trip, that country agreed to a $250 billion trade deal that's in our favor. Anecdotally, diplomatic relations with China went so well that Trump was the first president allowed into the Forbidden City. Number 5, ISIS has been significantly weakened. When Trump took office, he unleashed the military by removing many of the regulations imposed upon it that prevented them from running efficiently. All of this helped the military to destroy most of what remained of ISIS, which was one of the biggest global terror groups in existence at the beginning of the Trump administration. Number 6, HHS refined life as beginning at conception, Health and Human Services. And the Trump administration cut funding to the United Nations abortion promotion agencies. That made friends for him all over the country and around the world. This department rewrote their definition of life to include that it begins at conception in their new strategic plan. Trump also cut U.S. funds to the UN's Population Fund because of its participation in China's forced abortion policies. The Trump administration has also reinstituted the Mexico City policy, which denies aid money to any international group that would promote abortions. However, Trump increased the scope of the policy to include all federal aid and not just funds for family planning. These are the changes that infuriates the left and the media. Why? They are moral, practical, positive, and constructive. If things like that continue, and they continue to stand, the United States will grow stronger and become more self-sufficient. And there isn't a liberal in the country that can tolerate that. Liberalism needs a weakened, submissive, and financially strained America for its global policies to succeed. A definition of liberalism: the rejection of objective moral, spiritual, and legal standards. We have talked on occasion about the practice of exorcism. It doesn't go away. It gets bigger and it gets a little different each time we look at it. But there is a Frenchman by the name of Jean Clement who performs exorcisms, calls them ceremonies. He did such a ceremony to rid a Parisian businessman of what he called negative spirits. Negative spirits supposedly conjured up by a jealous rival. As the chanting went on, Robert, the patient, as Mr. Clement calls him, appeared to have entered a trance-like state. In his 50s, Robert, with purple circles below his puffy eyes, so deeply indented that they look like bruises, he said he had been suffering from chronic insomnia and anxiety as his business goes through a bad patch. He's one of the growing number of people in France who are turning to exorcists to save their careers or restore love to troubled relationships. As Mr. Clement prepared for the exorcism, he lit candles, burned incense, and placed them beside a crucifix and some semi-precious stones, putting them on a coffee table in the man's elegant apartment. Now, inquiring minds want to know, why does this exorcist, a person who by definition is in the business of casting out demons, a practice which is demonic in and of itself, a practice which is satanic, why would an exorcist have no problem with a crucifix, a symbol so-called of Christianity, his opposite number? Aren't the crucifixes and the Christian artifacts and symbols and so forth, aren't they the antithesis of evil? You've seen the movies. Hold up the crucifix and evil has to go. But exorcism itself is evil. It's not a Christian practice. Just wondering. We've heard about driverless cars. And right now we're being told that the solution to automobile crashes and crazy drivers is technology. Now, I've told you in the past, people who speculate on the future see driverless cars becoming popular and plentiful in the next 10 years or so. Now some are going so far as to declare 2017, quote, the year of the driverless car. Or was that 2016? No, I think it was 2015. Just keep moving it up. A senior reporter for a technical blog or magazine, paper, I don't know which, his name is Timothy Lee. He writes that he is confident that the driverless car option will only accelerate in 2018. He points to tests that have taken place in Phoenix. And he says that this will happen thanks to permissive regulations. However, existing safety studies of partially autonomous vehicles like the Tesla Autopilot have come up short in showing any kind of concrete safety benefits. One such safety feature is something called autopilot. It allows cars to move along highways without human interference. A recent National Highway Transportation Safety Administration study found the autopilot feature lowered crashes by nearly 40%. What's wrong with that? Well, the joy was short-lived as the experts started to see flaws in the study. During the most autonomous phase, another entry in the race, Waymo vehicles, proved unable to make left turns and proceeded slower than the flow of traffic. The report also failed to take into account the introduction of automatic braking several months before the introduction of autopilot. You do know that cars are being outfitted with automatic braking today, right? I don't know if it's something you have to order or whether everyone gets it. I'm guessing it's a specialty right now. The auto dealership that I work for, I'm told, had a car a woman brought in because every time she drove over the steel plates in the road out near the dealership, they were working on the road, and for months and months they had these huge steel plates in the highway in one lane. And every time she drove over or in that lane where those steel plates were, the car stopped. And it was not comfortable and disconcerting. And she brought it in. What's wrong with my car? Turns out the sensors were pointed a little bit too far down. They saw, they were supposed to see the cars in front. They were seeing stuff on the road. Ain't perfect yet. A 2016 study from the Insurance Institute for Highway Safety examining the impact of automatic brake features found there was a 39% reduction in rear-end crash rates based on that feature alone. And I can believe that. If these findings are accurate, nearly the entire decline in Tesla crash rates can be attributed to automatic braking, not automatic steering, which is what it was all about. For the producers of such vehicles, any lack of safety boost in the data is just explained away as the vehicle not being autonomous enough. Reality? You know and I know they're going to test these driverless cars on real people in real life circumstances, and they're going to tolerate the losses, including the loss of life, until we get it worked out. All we have to do is have one more of the AI systems approved, according to the article, and production will begin. And with production, there will be people willing to buy these things. And that's why I say they, maybe you, will then be the test dummy. Any volunteers? This is our world. In the week ending January 14th, 2018.